In this short video, I want to talk about shapes from the international regulations. So the first thing to remember is that all shapes are black. Now in the regulations, there are basically only 4 shapes. Now these shapes are balls, triangles, diamonds, and a cylinder. And these shapes can be shown either individually or combined with other shapes. For instance, you could have balls and diamonds displayed together. Now we can take these shapes and we can show them either individually or in groups to make signals. And in the rules, there are 11 signals. And one of the most important things to remember when you're learning about the signals is to actually understand the definitions. For instance, what is the definition of not under command? Or what is the definition of aground? Or what is the definition of restricted inability to maneuver? So if you're not familiar with the definitions or you have forgot, it would be a good idea to go back and review Rule 3. Because other than that, the signals don't really make much sense unless you know what the definition is of those particular signals. Now with the 11 signals, we have an anchor signal, a signal for not under command, for aground, for mine clearance, constrained by a draft, towing when the length of tow exceeds 200 metres, a sailing vessel under power, a combined signal for fishing or trawling, and then an additional signal for fishing only when the gear extends more than 150 metres into the seaway, a signal for a vessel restricting its ability to manoeuvre, and additional signals for vessels engaged in dredging or underwater operations when there is an obstruction on one side. Now, while as commercial operators we do need to know all of the signals, it's sometimes easier to break the signals down and look at those that are common and those that are not commonly seen. So the first ones that we don't commonly see, even though operators of vessels should show them, they sometimes don't, would be a sailing vessel. A sailing vessel, when it has his sails up but is using his engines, is required to show a triangular shape points down. That points down obviously indicating that he's using his engines. As I said, we don't commonly see that, although operators of those vessels should, if they were to follow the rules, display that signal. The other signal then is a mine clearance vessel. We don't commonly see that, but it's quite a distinctive signal, having those 3 black balls, one at the top of the mast and the other 2 on the port or starboard yard arms, indicating that the vessel is engaged in a mine clearance operation. And the third signal we don't commonly see is a vessel constrained by its draft, the cylinder. Now this is an optional rule. If you read Rule 28, it will tell you at the beginning of the rule that masters of vessels may display this signal. So those 3 are not common signals to be seen. So let's take a look now then at the 6 must-know shapes. The first one is a anchor signal, which is a black ball displayed in the forepart of a vessel. Then we have a vessel engaged in towing when the length of tow exceeds 200 metres. Remember, this is measured from the stern of the towing vessel to the stern of the vessel being towed. And both vessels display a black diamond shape. It's also important to remember that there is no daytime signal for vessels towing when the length of tow does not exceed 200 metres. Then we have a signal for vessels engaged in fishing or trawling. So fishing, the definition being where the method of fishing restricts manoeuvrability, and trawling, the assumption being that a vessel trawling is towing its equipment behind. Both vessels would then display the same signal, 2 triangular shapes, apexes or points together. Now for a vessel fishing only, when the gear extends more than 150 metres into the seaway, they're required to show an additional signal, which is a triangular shape, point or apex upwards, indicating where the direction of their outlying gear is. Then we have a signal, of course, which is probably one of the most common, restricted in its ability to manoeuvre. So if we go to the definitions, we will find that this signal is displayed by vessels restricted in their ability to manoeuvre by the nature of their work. So this is a very important signal for all operators to be able to identify, that ball, diamond, ball signal. And it's very common around harbours and bays, anywhere where working activities occurring. Vessels could be engaged in servicing navigation marks, could be engaged in hydrographic survey work, could be dredging, could even be towing in a harbour environment, or even at sea. Now, it's also possible to have a combination of these signals. For instance, you could have a vessel engaged in towing, where the length of tow exceeds 200 metres, and that vessel is restricted in its ability to manoeuvre. Now, it should be noted that when used in towing situations, either in a harbour or at sea, the rules state that the towing operation needs to severely restrict the towing vessel's manoeuvrability for it to be displayed. You could also have a vessel that is engaged in dredging, but where the dredging activity restricts access to one side or the other of a dredging vessel. So they would have a ball, diamond, ball, and then may display 2 black balls and 2 black diamonds, indicating that there is an obstruction. Obviously, the signal there is indicating that the safe side to pass is to pass on the side of the diamonds. Finally, then, when it comes to learning the daytime signals, sometimes helps to look at some common features of the signals as a memory aid. So there are 3 signals that display balls, just balls on their own. The first one is a single ball for a vessel at anchor. The second one is 2 black balls in a vertical line for a vessel not under command. And the third one is 3 black balls in a vertical line for a vessel aground. Now, one of the definitions we have is when a vessel is underway. Underway is when you're not attached to anything. You're not aground, you're not at anchor, you're not at the dock. So you are then underway. When you're moving through the water, you are said to be making way. So if we look at those 3 signals, we can see that they all relate to not being in a position to move. For instance, a vessel at anchor is attached to the seabed. The 2 black balls is displayed by a vessel not under command. In other words, there's been some exceptional circumstance on board that vessel. For example, engine breakdown, fouled propeller, steering problems, etc., where the vessel cannot comply with the rules and therefore is not able to move. And the third one, of course, then is the vessel aground. Once again, it's sitting on the seabed and not in a position to move. So those 3 signals all relate to circumstances where the vessel cannot manoeuvre or move. 1 ball, 2 balls, 3 balls. There's your common feature amongst those signals. So I hope this video assists you in understanding day shapes, and we'll see you in the next video.